We are going to learn now a Sikha from Shabbos Parshas Nitzovim Vayelech Chof Hei Elul Tov Shin Nun. And the Rebbe is going to bring in this excerpt of the Sikha two very important points having to do with Moshiach's times. One thing is that we know that there's 7 haftoides of nechama, shiva de nechemta, 7 haftoides of comfort, that we are talking about Hashem's consolation for the Yidden after the Churban. It begins from Shabbos Nachmu until this Shabbos is the final one of the 7 Shabboses of Nechemta, of consolation. And the Rebbe is going to speak about this idea, how it is every year and every Shabbos of the 7 weeks, etc. And then another thing that Rebbe is going to talk about is about the concept of panim, a lot about the idea of the face, Hashem shining the face. That has to do with Moshiach's times as well. He's also going to speak about other things as well, but that's primarily where we're going to start with. So we're starting in the middle of the page after the 3 stars, Yud Beis. There is an additional thing that takes place in the Shabbos prior to Rosh Hashanah, that the final Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, we read in the Haftorah, the 7th Haftorah of the set of 7 Haftorahs of comfort. What does that mean? Hainu, this means Siyum v'Gemar v'Shleimus Klolos in the Shavan and Nechemta. It's the conclusion and the end and the completion and perfection of the general idea of the 7 of comfort. The idea behind this is Sheva de Nechemta, the 7 consolation haftoidas. Maschilim b'haftoida nachmu nachmu am. It begins with the haftoida we read, the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, that begins with the word nachmu nachmu. Hainu, this means to say, Shaschola de Nesheva de Nechemta, the beginning of the 7 of comfort. Already, the first of the 7, we're talking about a double comfort, as the Chazal say, Nachmu, Nachmu, twice console the Jewish people. So the first one already is already a double consolation. Well, according to the rule, Mailim b'kodesh, that we go up in holiness and sanctity. In other words, anything holy, anything good, we always increase. Moving, it's understood. The Shabbosim, afterwards, this double comfort increases and is added even more so in one higher level and another higher level. In other words, true, the first Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, we had a double comfort, but the next Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, we have to have a greater double comfort. And it keeps on increasing. The 3rd Shabbos is a 3rd level of double comfort. Till the 7th Shabbos, this upcoming Shabbos, the final Shabbos of the 7 Shabbos of comfort, is the ultimate level of the consolation and double consolation. But Protis, here even more specifically, the increase in consolation that takes place in the 2nd Shabbos in the series of the 7 of consolation, it's in a way that what is extra and additional is more than the principle. It says about Hashem, the Chazal say, Shetoisvos birchosei of Hashem, the bracha of Hashem, is toisvosei meruba ala ikir. It's in its addition is more than the principle. By a person down here, when they give something, they share something, so when they increase, so there's the principle, and they increase by a little bit. When Hashem increases, the increase of Hashem is greater than the amount of the principle. So therefore, what do you have? So you have the first Shabbos, you had a double comfort. The next Shabbos, which has to be a greater double comfort, is not an incremental increase. Okay, we're going to have some more double comfort in the second Shabbos over the first Shabbos. No. By Hashem, when He increases, the increase overshadows and is greater than the original. So the increase in the second Shabbos of the 7 Shabbos of comfort is above and so much more than it was the original double comfort of the first Shabbos following Tisha B'Av. Then he goes on and says, the second line in the last paragraph, after this additional increase becomes now the acquisition of every single Yid. Every single Yid now retains it and acquires this because this is what Hashem gave to us on that second Shabbos. So now we go to the next level. It's added and increased even more. In the third Shabbos of the series, in such a way that the new increase is more than the new principle. In other words, the second Shabbos set now a new standard for principle. So the third Shabbos, the increase is much greater than the second Shabbos. And then it says parenthetically, this also includes also that it's greater than the increase that was in the second Shabbos, that was greater than the principle of the first Shabbos. And then this keeps on going this way further, ad Shabbos, until this upcoming Shabbos, Gemar v'shleimus hashavat nechemta, the conclusion, the perfection of the 7 of comfort that just keeps on growing this way, not just incrementally, but in a way that it's much more powerful than the previous increases. And this happens 7 times. All of this increasing that takes place, Shabbos 2 of the 7 of comfort over Shabbos 1 until we reach the 7th Shabbos, that is within this year itself. But we know every year has more than the previous year. So this is all of what we just now said about the 7 weeks doubling on each other and increasing on each other is Malvada illusion etoisa b'chlos ina the Shavin and Nechemta Mishana Lashana. This in addition to the advantage and the quality that's added in the general idea of the 7 of comfort from year to year. Skip the parentheses. Hainu Shasheva the Nechemta the Shana Zu. This means that the 7 Shabbosim of consolation of this year that they're so much greater than the 7 of comfort that was in the years prior to that. So therefore, in addition to every single Shabbos in this series, it increases, and it increases so much greater. It's so much of a greater increase than was last year and the year before that, and 10 years ago, and 1,000 years ago, etc. Then let's skip over concerning Yud Gimel, to the second paragraph. Let's go over to Yud Gimel. In Parshas Nitzovim, we can connect this with Parshas Nitzovim. We always read Parshas Nitzovim in the final Shabbos of the 7 Shabbos of comfort. By the way, let's not lose track of what we're talking about over here. The comfort that the Yidden get is from the fact that the Beis HaMikdash will be built, Moshiach will come, there'll be the ingathering of the exiles, etc., etc. That's what we're talking over here about comfort. We're not talking about a band-aid. We're talking about the Geulah stopping and the Geulah coming. So now the Rebbe says, this is also the connection between Parshas Nitzovim being read at the final Shabbos of the 7 Shabbos and 7 Haftorahs of consolation. The Parshas Nitzovim is Parsh b'Torah Oidus HaGeulah Mitzvah Shleimai the Moshiach said came. In Parshas Nitzovim it was explained in the Torah about the true and complete redemption and the perfect redemption through Moshiach. The Rebbe quotes the Rambam, that the Rambam says, HaTorah Ha'idolav, the Torah testified about him. Who's him? The Rebbe explains, Al Melech HaMashiach. Shenemar, that it says, where does it say? The Rebbe adds parenthetically into the words of the Rambam, a Parsha Shavua in the Parsha of our week, that says, V'shav Hashem Elokecha Shavuscha, Hashem will return your captives. And V'richamecha, and he will have compassion upon you. V'shav, and he will return. V'kibetcha, he will collect you. V'goymer, etc. If your scattered ones will be at the ends of the heavens, in other words, as far as they may be, Hashem will gather them in with Moshiach. Shebezem mudgish hakesher v'ashayich is the parsha Nitzovim l'siyum v'shleimus hashavenu nechemta. This is emphasized, the bond and the association between parsha Nitzovim to the conclusion and perfection of the 7 Shabbosim of comfort, because it's all the same theme. The comfort that we're being comforted for Tisha B'Av and everything that occurred is Mashiach's coming, and the parsha talks about Mashiach's coming. Now, Shabbos Parsha Nitzovim is always the final Shabbos of the 7 Shabbos of comfort. Sometimes Parshas Vayelech is included as well. Some years Parshas Vayelech is after Rosh Hashanah and Shabbos Shuvah, so therefore it's not part of the 7 of comfort. This year, though, as it was in the year when the Rebbe said this Sikha in Tafshin Nun in 1990, Shabbos was Parshas Nitzovim Vayelech together. So the Rebbe is going to connect it as well with Vayelech. And in how it comes out in this year, the calendar, Nitoisav Gamakriya, the Parshas Vayelech is added also the Torah reading of Parshas Vayelech. Sheroimez al ha'inyan the Yelchu Mechael al Choyel Kanal Sivches, that the Vayelech hints, as the Rebbe spoke earlier in the Farbrengen, what's the idea of going? What's the idea of Vayelech? Vayelech means increasing and traveling from strength to strength. And that is a pasuk in Tehillim. That pasuk in Tehillim concludes, Yelcho Machayel Choyel, Shaydei Zera, through that, Yeroel Lakim B'Tzion, that Kel Lakim will appear in Tzion. Like the conclusion of that pasuk in Tehillim. When will that be that Hashem will be revealed and seen? The Geulah mitzvah shleim idea Moshiach it came in the true and complete redemption through Moshiach it came to Bartzeinu Hagdosh in our holy land, Yerushalayim HaKodesh in our holy city Yerushalayim, the Beis Hamikdash in the Beis Hamikdash ad lem Kodesh HaKadoshim until the holy of holies, which is B'Tzion. The true idea of Tzion is all the way the depth and the outstanding level of the Beis Hamikdash, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. But Tzion Hapnim is the Beis Hamikdash Atzmai. In the inner level of Tzion of the Beis Hamikdash itself, Noisef al Hapnim is Yerushalayim, in addition to be the inner part of Yerushalayim, Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. So here we see the connection between Parshas Vayelech and the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema, since Vayelech has to do with Yelchu Mechayel Choyel, and we know that by going from strength to strength, that brings us to Yeroel Kel El Kim B'Tzion, and that brings us to the situation of the revelation of Hashem and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it means Vayelech is connected, our traveling, our increasing from strength to strength, has to do with the Geulah Mitzvah Shlema. Now the Rebbe is going to bring another idea that has to do with the Geulah of this Shabbos. The Rebbe is going to expound on what he mentioned earlier, and the Rebbe has mentioned this many times, that on Shabbos Mevorchim Tishrei, the Jewish people do not bench the month, but rather Hashem benches it for us, the Baal Shem Tov said, and by Hashem benching the month for us, so through that, we have the power to bench the month all the other years. So the Rebbe is going to connect this concept with also the time of the Shabbos when the benching of the month takes place, again with the idea of the Geulah. Yudal. We could add and connect this also with the idea of the blessing of the new month that takes place in the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah through Hashem. Though it's not explicitly stated the exact time when Hashem benches the new month of the 7th month, in other words, Tishrei, Mistaber Loimar makes sense to say that when Hashem benches the new month, it's the very same time that the Jewish people bench the month 11 times in the year when Hashem leaves it up to us. Which is, when do we bench the new month? That after reciting, it should arise the salvation, the tefillah Yikum Purkan, and there's 2 tefillahs that begins with the word Yikum Purkan. Shemoira ala kefel be'inyan Yeshua Purkan. It indicates the doubling of the salvation. Purkan. Purkan means the salvation taking us out of the Geulah. Al derech nacham b'kiflayim. Similar to the idea of the double comfort. So we have the double salvation, which after we are reciting the double salvation, that's when Hashem benches the new month. And then what we say after benching the new month, like it's also emphasized in the continuation of the davening afterwards, that we begin with a tefillah called Father of Mercy, like it's the custom of Chabad that the Shabbos prior to Rosh Hashanah we do say Avarachmim. Normally on a Shabbos Mevarchim we don't say Avarachmim. There is an exception to this in Sivan, but Shabbos Mevarchim Sivan. But in general, Shabbos Mevarchim we don't say Avarachmim. But Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah we do say Avarachmim. Well, we explained that also, when Hashem benches the month, it's bracketed by these 2 powerful things, the double salvation of twice Yikum Purkan and the Avarachmim afterwards. What's the significance of Avarachmim? Like it's explained in many places, Geulah ilu de Avarachmim shulamayla gam Avarachamon. Chassidus explains how Avarachamim, Father of mercy, is higher than merciful Father. That we use it in different tefillas, we have these different expressions. So Chassidus talks about it, what levels it's talking about. That Avarachman, merciful Father, is a level having to do with Seder Ishtalshlus. Avarachmim, Father of mercy, has to do higher than Seder Ishtalshlus. The Rebbe in the footnote explains that it's also in the simple meaning, you can understand that Father of mercy is greater than merciful Father. Because merciful Father mercy is a description for the Father. In other words, you're saying the Father has mercy. But if you're saying Father of mercy, you're talking about mercy itself, not how the mercy is extended to the Father as well. So anyway, the benching of the month of Hashem is surrounded by all these positive things. And after saying Avarachmim, that fortunate are those that are sitting in your home. What's your home? What's your house? What's the Eibishter's house? Beis HaMikdash. Till we get to the end of the entire davening Shabbos morning, that the straight ones will go with your face, will have and settle in your face. And here the Rebbe is going to talk a lot about the idea of face. Different things has to do with face, but and all connected with the Geulah. Hagilui de panecha, it's the revelation of your face. Al derech yirah elakim betzion b'kodesh kedoshim, similar to where it says that it will be visible, Hashem in Zion, in the Holy of Holies. The idea of the connection with the face shows on this great revelation. And he keeps on going about how this not just the Yeshu Sharmas Panach has to do with Hashem's face, which is going to become revealed in Moshiach's times in the Kodesh Kedoshim, but this entire period of time also has to do with this. V'inyan zeh, top of the next page. V'inyan zeh, hu b'hadgoshi yiseiru b'Shabbos ha'achron the Chodesh El. And this thing is even more emphasized in the final Shabbos, which is Haravi, the fourth Shabbos of the month of El. Ki, first of all, in Yanish Chodesh El, Rosh Hashanah, Hanil Doidi V'Doidi, the idea and the theme and the motto of the month of El. That it's Rosh Hashanah is I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Who can marshal a melech besod. It's like a metaphor for a king in a field. He shows a smiling and laughing face to everybody. So again, it's the revelation of the face, which hearkens and is a good omen for the face of Hashem that will become revealed when Moshiach comes. And the similar aspect of this in the Nimshal, in when he comes into explaining how this actually comes out in the analog, in the Nimshal to the Mashal, the Alter Rebbe says over there in that very famous Maimer L'Kudei Torah where it brings that Mashal, he says, D'chsiv Yored Hashem Pana Vayelech, that Hashem will shine His face to you. And the Alter Rebbe explains, Shu Inyan Ha'oris Yud Gimel Midas HaRachmim, it's a ray of the 13 attributes of mercy. Skip the parentheses. He just says about the different levels. Kale has to do with the first of the 13 attributes. Sheyeh Panim Epanim, that it should be face to face, which again, all of this Hashem's face all reminds us about what's going to be and hearkening what's going to be in the Beis HaMikdash. Though this face of Hashem that's revealed to us is in the entire month of El, but in the month of El itself, this matter increases day after day, like the Rebbe earlier said, Mailim B'Kodesh. If you had it in the beginning, so then day 2 is going to be more, day 3 is more than that, and so on. Ad l'Shabbos ha'achron d'Chodesh El, till the final Shabbos of the month of El, it's increasing further and further. Not until and it stops, but that's where the Rebbe is holding at. That's where we're at. So he's talking about that time. Befrat b'smichas la'erev Rosh Hashanah, especially as we come closer to the day before Rosh Hashanah, Kedisa B'tur b'Shem HaMedrash, like it's brought down in Halacha in the name of the Medrash, that Yidden, when it comes to their day of judgment, Shaloib Shim Levanim, they dress in white, Umisatfim Levanim, and they wrap themselves up in white. How come? White is a sign of happiness and victory and joyfulness and so on. Because they know that Hashem will make for them a miracle. This is a nation that it knows the manner of its God. Who is such a great nation that God is close to him. The conclusion of the pasuk is Hashem Elokeinu b'chol koreinu elav, like Hashem our God, who all who call him, Elav Elohim Midosav, that they call him himself and not his attributes, not his midos, not his spheres, Shezeu Inyan, the Panacha. So again, it's the idea of the face, which the face we associated before has to do with the Kodesh HaKadoshim when Moshiach comes. And in the time of year, the face has to do with this time of year now as well. Till from the face that we're having a whole month of El, and this revelation of Hashem's face going into Rosh Hashanah, that we know Hashem's revelation to us, until the ultimate revelation of Hashem's face, Yom Kippur, that then the Kohen Gadol enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and similar to this, and every single Yid gipsagt in the Rambam, like the Rambam rules, Shekol ish v'ish chulu niskadosh Kodesh HaKadoshim, that every single Jew who chooses can be sanctified like the Kohen Gadol to be holy of holies. Hainu shemeir begilui hakodesh kadoshim b'makim b'zman b'adam. that it shines in a revealed way, the Holy of Holies in place, similar to the physical location of the Kodesh Kadoshim in the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. And also the time of Kodesh Kadoshim shines in a revealed way, which Yom Kippur is like the Kodesh HaKadoshim of time, the Holy of Holies of time. And the person, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, is the Kohen Gadol. And all of this comes together, which is Panecha B'Shleimus, which then we partake of and we connect with the level of your face, your innermost level, in the most perfect way. We could say that's similar to this, that takes place in this Holy of Holies in location, in time, in person, is something that takes place throughout the 10 days from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. Like it's explained, like it's hinted in the exact language of the Chazal, Asara Yamim Shebein Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippurim. It says 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It doesn't just say the first 10 days in short or some other similar expression. It really elaborates on it. Meaning, it's trying to emphasize that in all the 10 days there is the quality of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur permeate all the 10 days. That's why the Chazal saying Asara Yom Shebein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, to tell us that really all the 10 days are like pieces of Rosh Hashanah, and all the 10 days are of pieces of Yom Kippur. And since we explained that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have this level of Panecha, the Pnimis of Hashem, which harkens and reminds us of Moshiach's times, so therefore we have that in these 10 days as well. But it's not just limited to then. The Rebbe now works his way backwards and brings it into El. The Yisayim is even more so. Sheme'ein, Milos, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippurim, Yeshnam, Gam, B'chodesh El. Similar to the advantage of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, there's also to be found the month of El. Kivin Shekol, Harboim, Yom, Rish Chodesh El, Ad Yom Kippurim, Haminyan Echad. Since really, from Rish Chodesh El till Yom Kippur is really considered one hemshech, one continuation. Like it's hinted in the 4 letters Yud, that's at the end of the words, which is Rosh Tevis El, but the Seife Tevis, the end letters, are 4 Yuds, referring to the 4 times 10, Yud being the gematria for 10, that's the 40 days, from Rish Chodesh El till Yom Kippur, which indicates that really it's all of one piece. So whatever we talk about is in Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and for us 10 days of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur has the revelation of Panecha, the Pnimius, similar to Moshiach's times, really also have to do with El as well. Now, even though it has to do with El as well, the Rebbe is always emphasizing the time that we're in now. So Befrat B'siyum Chodesh El, especially at the conclusion of the month of El, B'smichos L'asar Yom Shebein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, close to the 10 days, that's between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, since we're very close to that time, so we're obviously like receiving from that time and being influenced from that time as well, because time in Chassidus flows, and in Torah in general, flows backwards and forwards. It's not just that the time that occurred and the events that occurred and the amshachas that occurred are something that influences things forward in time, after the time. So for example, any Yom Tov that we have is not just something that influences the time of the Yom Tov, but also influences the time after the Yom Tov, but really it also flows backwards as well. And therefore, this experience of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the 10 days of Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, which has the Panecha of Hashem having to do with the Geulah, also influences backwards. And the closer it is, it's obviously more powerful. So being towards the end of the month of El, we have a greater influence of this Panecha from the 10 days of Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur. So therefore, when we come to Shabbos that we're benching that month, top of the next page, moving for this understood. In the benching of the new month that Hashem does for us, of the final Shabbos of the month of El, Mudgish B'Yoser Hagili de Panecha has emphasized even more strongly the revelation of your face, which we said the level of your face is Inyan HaGeula, the idea of redemption. So all of these things that we were talking about that has to do with Hashem benching the month, that's bracketed by the two Yukum Purkons, and on the other hand, the Avarachmim and Asher Yeshu Yisecha, and then Yeshu Yishamas Panecha, and all the things having to do with the month of Tishrei. All of this shows how this final Shabbos of the month has to do with the Panecha, which has to do with the Geulah. Tezvav, v'yirotzen should be the will of Hashem, shamdeinu b'Shabbos ha'achron, by standing in the final Shabbos of Elul and the year, Shabbos nasi gemara shleimus hashavet nechemta, that in that final Shabbos is the conclusion and perfection of the seven of comfort. Tia shleimus hanechama v'poel mamish, that should be the perfection of the comfort in actuality, which is Geulah amitis v'ashleimai de Moshiach, that came to the true and perfect redemption through Moshiach. Of a pashtus, and simply put, Shabbos said, and this Shabbos zoichem l'kiyama yusha parsha shvo, we will merit the fulfillment of what was foretold in the parsha of our week. Hashem will return your captives, and He will have compassion upon you, and He will return and collect you from all the nations. And like the expression in the pasuk that we recite in Hoidu, that's recited before Mincha on Fridays, that He collected them from the lands, from the east and the west, from the north and the south, in such a way does He cause the collection that it causes that they praise Hashem for His kindness and His wonders to people. Now that pasuk is said in that kapitel in Tehillim, Dalet Pa'am, 4 times. Why is it recited 4 times? Keneged Dalet Geulas, to correspond to the 4 redemptions. Va'ad ledarga chamishis, until we reach the 5th level, chamishis lepari, that Rebbe always brings down, that what it says, that when the Egyptians gave over their land to to Yosef to be able to receive food and seeds to be able to plant, so 20% of that went to Paroi, 5th. And Paroi in Kabbalah and Chassidus shows on the idea of revelation. This Periu Vizgalgalim, and they call Nahoidin. Paroi is related to the word Pera, which means it's opened and loosened and revealed from it all the levels of light. So the level of the 5th level has to do with this highest, most level, Bechinas HaYechida, the level of Yechida, which is also the 5th level of the soul. Yet prior to the davening of Mincha, which is that's when time when the Farbrengen was. And before reading the Torah and Parsha Azinu, which we do by the Mincha of next Shabbos, we see in actuality, you are all standing today together before Hashem your God. How come? Why do we merit to do that? Vayelech, because it becomes the traveling. They will go to Hashem in Sion. In such a manner that you should gather all the men, women, and children in the place Hashem has chosen. All Jewish people come to our holy land, to our holy city, and to our 3rd base of Migdash. We will hear the reading of the Torah from the mouth of the king, as was done by Hakil, until from Hashem's mouth. It says that hearing it from the king is as if we hear it from Hashem's mouth. Beginning from the reading of the Torah, Parsha Azinu, that we will hear it from Moshe Rabbeinu's mouth. Like the first time around that we heard Parsha Azinu from Moshe It says at the beginning of Parsha, it says in Parsha Azinu that Moshe Rabbeinu spoke in the ears of all the congregation of Yisrael the words of this song of Azinu until the end. since to be fulfilled the request of Moshe Rabbeinu, send it with the one who you will send. That Chazal explain, what does it mean, send with the one who you will send? When Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem to take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim by someone else. So the Chazal say, Shlach no biyad tishlach means, send them their final Mashiach. So Moshe Rabbeinu's request that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted the final Mashiach should come will be fulfilled Geulah mitzvah shleim in the true and complete redemption, like the Geulah Rishon Geulah Achron, through the first Redeemer, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, who Geulah Achron, he's one with the final Redeemer, Moshiach. Moshe Rabbeinu with David Malch Mashiach, and Moshe Rabbeinu and David King Mashiach, take it from Yad Mamish, immediately Mamish.